Hello, juniors. You guys are continuing your writing of narratives today, and I'm going to review something from a book called The Elements of Style, which we use in different writing classes. I use it in AP Comp, but the ideas in it are just about how do you write well. So I'm giving you something called Rule Breakdown Day 1. I really like the set of directions here, and I think a lot of you will find them useful. So it's rule number 4 from Elements of Style, but rule number 1 for all accounts for you. It says write with nouns and verbs. So some of you have this idea that flowering up your writing with a lot of adjectives and adverbs is going to make it better. Like, you can't just say, the dog walked into the room. You need to be like, the quiet dog padded almost silently through the reverberating halls of the haunted house. There is a way in which too many adjectives or adverbs distract. The thing that people want most out of a story is to understand what's going on with it. And nouns and verbs are your ticket there. Like, I want to know what your character looks like and what they are physically doing during the course of the story. If they're talking, I even kind of want to know what they're doing when they're talking. Are they talking and walking? Are they angry? Are they sitting? Are they eating? What are they doing? Stephen King writes like this. If you read a lot of Stephen King, he actually writes with kind of limited adjectives. It makes him incredibly clear. It can also tend to be a little bit shorter of a way to write, but it makes more room for additional plot. The example given from Elements of Style is a poem. You know, the poem you may or may not like, but the point of the poem is this: when you do use adjectives or adverbs, they should be very intentional. So if you have kind of plain and pared down language, and all of a sudden a hallway is desolate, a desolate hallway, ooh, what's going on in this hallway? Suddenly I'm paying attention to it. It's a really subtle way of making your reader zone in on something you want them to focus on. The next rule is, in conjunction with this, do not construct awkward adverbs. So that's the ly words for the most part. If you're adding an ly onto the end of something, you're adverbing it. And I think in your head, like when you were younger in elementary school, people asked you to use $5 words. So they wanted you to make words longer and longer and longer. There's a way in which that only helps you to a point, and then it becomes distracting. Don't torture your words. You're not going to get graded poorly if you write simply. Writing simply is okay. Write straightforward, clear-cut story. These are my characters and this is what they're doing. I want to understand that. I don't need a bunch of extra flowery language in it. Use an active voice. So this is potentially the thing that you guys will find a little difficult, but once you kind of get past active and passive voice, it really helps. So if you say something direct and you make the person doing it the focus and what they are doing the focus, it communicates much stronger. So for example, the leaves were raked by the boy. Even though the boy is doing the action, he's the last thing in the sentence. That makes it passive and kind of boring. Why are the leaves the focus and not the boy? The boy raked the leaves. Boom. Simple, direct. I know exactly what's going on. The boy is the focus and he should be. Everything is sort of going in the correct direction for that. So I'm encouraging you guys to put your nouns first. Noun, verb, whatever they're doing. Go in that order. It seems simple, but simple is really, it's preferable to fancy, if fancy is going to get sort of bogged down. If you overuse active voice, like if you never ever break to passive, it can get a little boring. So whenever I give you one of these rules, understand that there's always times when you should choose to break them. But it's about sort of the percentages. You know, if you are active voice 50% of the time and passive voice 50% of the time, that's actually not enough active voice. You should probably more have like a 70-30 breakdown. That way there's a dominant amount of like assertive, simple, straightforward delivery. And then there's, you know, a decent amount of sort of lighter, more indirect ways of explaining yourself. 70-30. A really easy way to make sure that you're keeping your percentages kind of in the right area, and you can do this like, so when you're writing, inevitably, because you guys are actually in kind of perfect writing conditions, having your own time to control, sometimes you'll notice you get down and you're just doing it, right? You are having the time of your life. This has gone really well. You had a really good moment of writing. Then you get stuck. You know that there's something you want to do to move it forward, but you don't quite know what. Here's an easy thing to do that I promise will actually help your writing. Take one of these ideas, one of these rules. So look for adjectives and adverbs, things of that nature, and actually go through the story with the highlight function and highlight them. It's not a demanding task for you. It's not something that you have to have like laser focus on. You can sort of have your show on in the background and be doing that. But then when you take the tool, the little page tool, you know, where it says 100% on your screen, and just bring it back to like 70 or 60 or 50% and just look at how much highlight you have, that'll really show you how often you do certain things as a writer. It'll show you whether or not you're consistently doing it or whether or not you're barely doing it. So if you don't even know if you break these rules, then you should definitely take a look at highlighting them to see how often you actually are in danger of committing these sort of writing sins. Another thing I would encourage you to do in all of this, the word very, V-E-R-Y, eliminate it from your vocabulary. Like an easy way to make your writing better is to never use that word. So if you are looking for something to do, you can go back through what you've written and you can eliminate just that sort of silly word. Silly word. These rules are applicable to both setting and character. So whichever you're working on today, you know, you can feel free to apply these. If you need me for live aid, I will be here. And just remember, the stories are due the 18th at 8 a.m. Happy trails, my little ones.